Welcome back to Three Times a Victim. I'm Sarah, joined again by Marcus. The last episode left us at one of the darkest points in Bruce Whealton's life, the night in 2019 when despair nearly won. But chapters 25 through 27 bring a shift, not toward closure or happiness, but toward something quieter, survival that begins to speak.
Right. Section 6 is titled Breaking the Silence, Finding My Voice. That phrase captures the transformation at the heart of these chapters. Bruce isn't suddenly free of pain. In fact, the trauma is still constant. The difference is that he begins to share it.
Chapter 25 opens with a moment of grace, a simple human connection in the hospital. Bruce meets Kira, a 21-year-old patient who looks at him and says the words that no professional, no friend, no family member had said with such clarity. I believe you. 100%.
That moment is breathtaking because of how ordinary it is. It's not therapy, not a grand revelation. It's just belief. Someone finally sees him as the person he truly is. After years of being disbelieved, those three words crack the silence that had buried him for more than a decade.
And that belief becomes contagious. A group art session in the hospital becomes an unexpected mirror. People reflecting back to Bruce qualities he had long forgotten. You're not invisible, one says. You're everywhere. The irony is that invisibility had been the defining feature of his life since 2004. For the first time, he's seen again.
It's remarkable how he ties those scenes together. A hospital hallway, an art class, a simple conversation. All of them small human moments that begin to stitch his sense of self back together. Not because the world has changed, but because connection starts to exist again.
By the time he leaves the hospital just before Christmas 2019, he's still fragile, but different. He's not cured, but he's open. That openness becomes the foundation of everything that follows, the slow rebuilding of a life that injustice tried to erase.
Chapter 26 is titled Reassembling a Life, and that's exactly what he tries to do. He finds structure through UNC's community mental health programs, HomeLink, the STEP Clinic, group therapy, art therapy. For 6 months, there's rhythm and stability. Then COVID hits, and everything dissolves back into isolation.
Yet that setback becomes the doorway to something new, the Community Empowerment Fund. A small office, some student advocates, and a space that offers not pity, but partnership. It's here that Bruce tells his story out loud again, about losing his license, his career, his reputation, his identity.
And this time, the response is different. "I'm so sorry that happened to you," one advocate says. The same simple phrase that broke his silence in the hospital. Those small affirmations, repeated by different people, begin to replace the inner voice of shame.
The CEF experience also leads to something bigger. An advocate tells him, "You should write your story." That's the moment the seed for this very book is planted. He posts his first chapters online, not for sympathy, but to reclaim narrative power.
There's also the introduction of another key figure, Sarah, an old classmate who reconnects with him through Facebook. Their conversations become the bridge between past and present, pain and purpose. She asks questions others never dared to. She listens, she believes. And through that dialogue, Bruce finds a safe way to speak the truth again.
What strikes me is how this section blends external recovery with inner growth. Bruce starts moving through the world again, peer support training, reconnecting with community, but he's also confronting deeper layers of identity.
That comes fully into focus in Chapter 27, Returning to the Work I Loved. Here, Bruce discovers peer support as a calling. It's a profession rooted in lived experience, turning pain into purpose. It's the bridge between being the therapist and the patient.
There's another exchange in this section that really stands out. The conversation between Bruce and his friend Sarah about Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh. It isn't about politics, it's about truth and how people respond when asked to face it.
Kavanaugh reacted to questions with anger and outrage, treating inquiry as attack. Bruce's reaction to his own accusation was the opposite. He begged for investigation. He wanted evidence reviewed, witnesses questioned, every fact on the record.
That difference is huge. The guilty fear scrutiny. The innocent crave it. Bruce's entire life's work, helping victims and survivors, is living proof of the kind of person he is. His story itself is the evidence that he could never have committed the crime he was accused of.
And that contrast belongs in any conversation about justice. Bruce's memoir isn't a plea for belief without proof. It's a plea for a complete, transparent investigation. His openness is the measure of his innocence.
Exactly. Truth can withstand questioning. Lies can't. That's what makes his story not just personal, but universal. That realization, that lived experience has value, feels revolutionary for him. For years, he believed his trauma made him broken. Now, he sees that it can make him useful.
Chapter 27 also explores identity on another level: gender, compassion, and empathy. Bruce reflects on how he's always rejected aggression and embraced sensitivity. In a world that equates masculinity with dominance, he sees himself differently: gentle, nurturing, emotional. It's not a political statement, it's truth.
And that truth deepens his empathy. He discusses Christine Blasey Ford's testimony and how differently he was treated as a man falsely accused. The contrast between his humility and the entitlement of someone like Brett Kavanaugh reveals the double standard embedded in both gender and justice.
The chapter closes with him drawing boundaries, finally cutting ties with his toxic family. It's both heartbreaking and liberating. He realizes he can't love himself and keeps seeking validation from those who refuse to see his worth.
The final image of this section, getting a car with the small inheritance after his mother's death, is symbolic. After decades of being stranded, both literally and emotionally, he can move again. It's a small thing, but also a metaphor for autonomy.
What makes this section so moving is that the trauma hasn't ended. The pain doesn't vanish. The injustice is still unresolved. But Bruce is no longer mute. He's telling the story, building a life out of the ruins, and inviting others to witness it.
And that's the difference between surviving and living, finding your voice, even if it trembles.
Next time, we'll move into the final chapters, 28 through 31, where Bruce reflects on what comes after survival. How to live with truth when the world refuses to acknowledge it.
For now, this has been Sarah and Marcus, reflecting on 3 Times a Victim by Bruce Whealton. Thank you for joining us as we continue to walk through pain that never fully disappears, but still gives rise to meaning.